Hello all, Didi Morris here. Thanks for joining me. As per the title of this video, why is hindsight always 2020? If you ask anyone to look back on their life and think about how it's gone, and they'll be able to do so because hindsight is always 2020. But what does this really mean? Well, it's a popular quote which suggests that looking back, you always see things clearer than you do when you're in the moment. Hindsight means to look back, and 2020 refers to the scale which opticians use to grade your sight and how well you can see things. Now, ask someone how their life has gone. They'll normally be able to say exactly when and where they went wrong or right and why. They'll be able to say things like, if I hadn't done that, things would be different, or I'm so glad I met so and so. These things seem so very clear when we look back on them in our mind's eye, right? So, why can't we see with this much clarity when we're right up there in the present? But it's mainly because we are distracted, confused, and caught up in whatever it is we're doing at the time. We are often taken off by feelings, by emotions, and sometimes even just go along with the crowd. Looking back, it's easy to say how something could have been done differently and how, if you could go back in time, you would do it differently and get a different outcome. So, why don't people do this the first time around? It's because of the illusion of control. In everyday life, we use mental shortcuts and pre programmed blueprints for how we think the world should behave. We use these shortcuts to work out anything from what to wear to whether or not the person next to you is a threat and how close you should get to them. These shortcuts are detailed, so I won't go into them here. So we use these mental shortcuts when we're in the moment to save time, save energy, and ultimately, we hope to be more effective as human beings. The problem is these can be influenced and manipulated by people, by our emotions and situations. So basically, it's because people just aren't that aware of themselves on a regular basis. There's too much else going on around us that most of us are trapped in our minds, thinking deeply about what to make for dinner, the argument that we just had with a spouse or a friend, or what that weird person on the train was wearing, that they almost always miss things that otherwise would have allowed them to predict things ahead of time. See, attention is a fascinating subject in psychology and the way human minds work. We're often so focused on what's going on in our heads or what we're paying attention to that we seemingly forget everything else. It's easy to get caught up in the moment and then look back with 2020 vision after the event has occurred. It's not all doom and gloom though. Let's face it, people make mistakes. It happens all the time and all around the world. But it's the act of looking back that made us grow. Basically, it's nothing to worry about aside from reminding you that you should try to be more aware. Hindsight is always 2020, but because of that, you're able to look at things that have happened to you with a sense of logic and analysis that allows you to learn. It's so very important not to only look back on your life, but to learn from your mistakes. If you don't do this, you'll end up with the same results all the way through your life. Whenever you get knocked down, if you just take a step back, so to speak, and look at what's happened, you'll discover not only why it happened, but how to avoid it happening in the future. People have the idea that successful people fail less. Actually, no, quite the opposite. They fail far more. People who are successful routinely fail and fail again. The difference is they do it fast and they keep it moving forward, learning from their mistakes. They don't fail once and then just stop trying. Hindsight allows you to become more successful. You can look back and think, how can I do this better next time? If I hear about someone who has failed their driving test, let's say 20 times before passing, I don't think, what a failure. I think, wow, this is someone who's clearly found the test difficult, yet they've kept going and kept trying until they made it. So when looking back on life and how things have gone for you, don't be too harsh on yourself. Remember that as long as you look back and think about what's happened, you'll always be able to learn from it and do better next time. That's all I'd like to share regarding this topic. Thanks for staying tuned in. Till my next video, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Browse that description box. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.